Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you find this video really interesting. Tell us what you think, Ron. I think it's going to be great. Okay, got it. Take care everybody, enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 7. So we're finally starting to make some progress, and I have to start off by saying a huge thank you to Robert Gibbons. So Robert was the one that sent me over to a website that actually had a parts list for this radio. And that's really what I needed to tie everything together. So, I was using different schematics, many of which looked very different. One was a 124-1, which was a different radio, similar but not the same, and had different part numbers. So, Robert was able to connect me with a parts list for this radio, which is the piece that I really needed to do here. So I have the parts list for a model 124. And by having this parts list, I've been able to correlate the parts on the schematic and get a positive match for what they are. So looking at the schematic, and this is for a model 124, I've taken all the capacitors and marked them in pink with numbers 1 through 9. And I've taken all the resistors and marked them in yellow. Just a coincidence, they're also 1 through 9. And I've taken this list, gone through the parts list that Robert provided, and marked what each value is. So cap number 1, which is right here, a little bit off camera. Cap number 1 right there is 0.25, okay? And there's 2, which is 0.1, and there's 8, which is 0.05, and so on. So now I know when I go underneath and start poking around, I can trace these back to the tubes and see where they connect and figure out what's what. More importantly, the resistors are also something that was a little difficult here. So I've got 9 resistors in the radio. 3 of them are flexible wire. I've already replaced one of them, as you recall, the 220 that went to the center wiper of the volume. I've got a 750, that's the broken one that I've showed you that goes to the speaker. And then I've got a 2K wire flexible resistor somewhere in there, I believe is in the back of the radio, which I'll show you in a moment. And then I've also been able to identify the color codes for what's left. The ones that are not marked in yellow are the ones I haven't replaced yet. So I now know that if I have a red, orange, black, orange dot, that's 20K, and I've got all that marked. So that's going to make this really simple for me to start going through this and replacing all these components. I think some of these caps are going to be in those sardine cans. For example, there's a block of 4 .01s or 0.1s that I believe are in that sardine can that was that was taken out of circuit. But I need to check that. I can simply go to the schematic, and if I look at 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are the 0.1s, I've got 1, 2, 3 right here. There's 4. And 5 is over here. So those are all the 0.1s. I just got to see where the connections go and see if they're all buried in that can. I suspect they are. So I'll have to replace those. But at least I have a map to go by now. Okay? So just to confirm that what I've done here is correct, if we take a look in here, we'll put the light on so you can see. So here's a resistor right here. And it's brown, and it looks like it has a green dot and a black end right here. That's going to be the 1 meg. Brown, green dot, black end. So at least I know now what this is. That's good. And then I have one over here, which is brown. This is coming off the coil can. Brown with an orange dot and a black end. Right here, 10K. All right. And then I've got one here. This looks like it's brown with an orange dot and a black end. And that looks like it's going to be 10K as well. So I've got everything. I've got everything where I need it now. That's cool. And this is the tone pot right here. And coming off of the tone pot, I do have a 0.05, so we can definitely replace this. And these are the cans I was talking about right here. I think there's a number of 0.1s in these cans, and there's another can right here. I think they're just buried in there. So we're going to take those all out of circuit and get this thing back where it needs to be. So we're on the right path. So just wanted to share that with you, and now I can move forward and really start to try to get this thing where it needs to be. All right, I'll be back. Okay, just coming back here with a fast update. So we now have all of the resistors changed on this radio, except for this 2K flexible resistor, which sits back here. It does test good, but I'm a little perplexed about it, so I need to think about it before I replace it. One end of it, and I'll see if I could flip this up and show you. One end of this resistor is tied to the chassis. Okay, this is a 2K resistor. One end goes right here to the cathode of the 27 tube, and then one end comes up here to chassis ground, and then comes back here, which I assume is to a coil in here. I need to check that, but it appears that's what's happening. So I'm trying to understand why the resistor is going to the chassis, because when I look at the schematic, which is right here, here's the 2K flexible wire resistor. You'll see one end goes right here to the cathode of the 27, but the other end kind of just, first of all, there's a line missing here, I think. So let's assume that that line is there. I don't see any connection to the chassis at all. If I follow this line up, it goes along this rail, which comes all the way across here, comes all the way across here. I don't see anything going to chassis ground here at all. And this, I assume, is the symbol for chassis ground right there. Actually, that's the antenna. This is the ground right here. So this particular schematic did not call out any connections to the chassis, which could be just because of its age. So I need to understand what's really going on here with this 2K resistor. If I look at some of my other schematics, like this one here, here's the 2K resistor, and you'll see that line that was missing is there, and it comes here, goes to a 1 microfarad cap. Again, nothing's tying to chassis, so something's a little odd on this. And if I look at the model 124i, which we again agreed that was not the right model but close, here's the same situation, the 2K flexible to the cathode. This line is there, so I know the line is supposed to be, and it comes across here and actually connects up through that that 220 ohm resistor that I put in by the volume pot. So need to do a little research here and understand what they mean here. So they have a G designated here, which means ground, and if I look at the speaker plug, they have a G here, which I assume means ground, but I don't see any designation here for ground, which is what confuses me. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I do notice here that coming off of this, these two electrolytics right here, there's a wire or a line that just kind of stops right there. So I assume that means that it's going to go to ground. I don't know. So I'm going to leave that resistor alone for the time being until I can figure out what it is. I did test it, and it does test actually well. So it's 2K, so there's no reason for me to change it until I do my testing and fire it up for the first time. So resistors are done using my resistor map. I haven't crossed all these off yet, but everything's done except for this one. And now we're going to go look at the caps. And again, most of these caps are going to be in those sardine cans. So let me go do that. Be back. So I'm working on this capacitor mess I've got going on here, and I'm starting with this can. And I've been able to narrow down, I'll show you on the schematic where I've narrowed down this particular can. Before I do that, there's two leads coming out of it. There's one here, and there's one here, okay? So if you look at the schematic, right here, the first one is, let me find it, right here. So it's a 0.25 microfarad, and you'll see it comes along here and connects to a 0.001 mica cap, which I have, and I'll show you. And the other end of it comes along this rail, okay? The other cap that's in that can is right here, which is a 0.5, and you'll see that it basically connects to this 15K resistor, comes up and rides along this rail, okay? Now the thing that's a little weird is this rail right here goes to the chassis. That's what I've determined. This entire rail goes to the chassis. All right, and the way I've proved that is when I've connected my electrolytics and I replaced them in exactly the location where the old one was, it did directly go to the chassis. So with that said, I should have connectivity from this can to chassis. Let's check it. I'm going to just do a continuity test. I obviously do because it's bolted in, right? It's attached right to the chassis. And if I do a capacitance reading, which I'll try to throw that in there so you can see it. If I go on one end of this can, right here, and to ground, to chassis ground, see I'm getting a reading. So that tells me that when I connect or I replace this can, rip it out, and the two values I need are 0.25 and 0.5, one end is going to go to these connections, one end is going to go directly to the chassis. Okay? So that's an important distinction, and it looks like most of the capacitors in this radio go directly to the chassis on one end, with the exception of a few. So it looks like it's a hot chassis kind of deal here. That would be my guess, that the chassis is going to be fully loaded and punched. So the question I have, I guess for some of you, is because I'm putting a 3-prong power cord, what happens when I attach this ground to the chassis? I don't know if it's not a floating ground. I know that. It shouldn't be a problem, but I'm just wondering before I experiment what you all think about that. So I'm going to ask that question. So now I know I'm going to take my drill, I'm going to remove this can, I'm going to put a terminal strip there, I'm going to put new capacitors, and then I'm going to need to figure out what I do here. Now this particular can, if I'm looking at it correctly, has 4 lines coming out of it. One here, there's one down here, and there's one back here. And it looks like probably one of those was bypassed with this 0.1 cap right here. So that's what it looks like to me at the moment, that at least one of them in the can was bad. And I'm probably guessing that based on my inventory, inside this can is probably 4.1s. Because I pretty much have everything else accounted for, with the exception of another 0.25 cap, which I haven't found yet. So there's definitely 4 elements in here. There's definitely 2 in here. This is a mica cap. This is a 0.001 right here, which we'll replace. And that's kind of where I am. Now, the only other thing I could think of is, yeah, no, that's exactly right. So I am missing that 0.25, and I'm going to have to track that back and see where it is. According to my diagram, it's connected directly to a 15K resistor, which if I look really quickly, it's over here. But if I trace this wire and bring it back, it goes directly to this can. That's one of them. The other 0.25 goes to, on my diagram, number 7, which is in here. So I have to do a little bit of digging on this one. But it's quite possible that I do have that 25 inside this can as well. I don't really know yet. But at least I know what I'm doing here. It's a 0.25 and a 0.5. There's only 2 leads coming out of it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to drill this out, put a terminal strip, and replace those 2 caps and connect all the wires, including this last 15K resistor, which comes right here. All right. That's the plan on the caps. I will save that for the next video to show you how that all works out. But so the only mystery we really have in our hands at this point is this can right here, what's in there, and we'll have to trace that out. I actually drew a diagram, and that's how I figured this out. All right. Anyway, again, thanks to Robert Gibbons for all his help. I'm making some progress here finally, and if you do have an opinion on this ground wire, given that all of the some of the components at least tie off to the chassis, let me know what you think. I don't see it as a problem, but want to get your opinion. Okay, everybody, have a great day.